How to deal with plant thugs. Balm is one of those plants you always see at plant swaps. A small plant quickly becomes a large clump. If it stayed a clump, it would not be on this list, but its roots tend to wander far and wide, establishing still more clumps. Plants that spread by rhizomes are almost impossible to rip out because any tiny piece of root left in the soil will re-sprout. Bellflower's delicate charms mask a will of iron. The rhizomes of this plant will push up through asphalt. They keep coming out with new varieties and they often say they are better behaved, but so far, that has not been the case. If you love it and plant it, you will be ripping it out by the handfuls. A better idea might be to grow it in containers. Since it's hardy down to zone 4, it should overwinter, with a bit of protection. Or try a different genus of Campanula, like the peach-leaved Campanula persicifolia. They make excellent cut flowers. USDA hardiness zones 4 to 9. It's hard not to be fascinated by the flowers on this Chinese lantern plant. They look like bold, orange tomatillos, a very close relative. The fruit inside the pod is edible and supposedly sweet, but they are generally cut them and used in displays. Cutting them is a good idea because you don't want to compound the problem of its overexuberance in the garden by letting it self-sow. This is yet another plant that spreads by rhizomes and it is very hard to eradicate. So keep cutting. They also dry nicely. The orange lantern turns beige, but it gets a lacy look that allows a peek at the seed pod inside. USDA hardiness zones 3 to 9. If you can think of evening primrose as a ground cover and keep it out of your flower bed, you may not think of it as a thug. Be sure to give it plenty of ground to cover, because it lasts for years. You will often see it happily taking over the side of the road. This is a carefree plant. As far as growing it, it can cause a lot of consternation if you decide you want to remove it. But most will bloom for weeks, throughout the summer. It is a native wildflower with several medicinal uses. USDA zones 3 to 11. Purple loosestrife, Lythrum salicaria, is on the invasive lists of several states, but Lysimachia plants, although not necessarily invasive, sure can travel. To be fair, not all species are troublemakers. Several are too tender to make it through colder winters. But two species to warn against are gooseneck loosestrife, Lysimachia clethroides, and purple-leaved loosestrife, Lysimachia ciliata, purpurea. This is another plant many gardeners refuse to think of as aggressive because they love it so much. Hollyhock mallows are perfect plants for cottage gardens. They bloom profusely and self-seed with abandon. Many of the newer varieties do not seed as freely as older types and may not become a nuisance. Just be sure you love it before you find out how it does in your garden. USDA hardiness zones 4 to 8. Lamb's ear is a favorite in children's gardens, partly because of the name and partly because they are as soft as a lamb's ear. While in bloom, they look lovely. But shortly afterward, they go into decline and you have to cut them back hard and wait for new growth to make them look presentable again. Some gardeners use this plant as edging, and that's just asking for extra work. It does not spread uniformly and it tends to die out in the center of a clump quickly. For a few weeks in May, Lily of the Valley can fill your yard with the most glorious perfume. After that, it will simply fill your yard. Once again, this is a good plant, in the right place. Lily of the Valley is not for the garden border. It should be considered a ground cover and a darn good one. Once established, it can thrive in dry shade or the best of soils. It even does well under trees, where nothing else grows. The pink variety is a bit more finicky and much less aggressive. USDA hardiness zones 3 to 9. What a misnomer. The obedient plant has a mind of its own. The obedience refers to the stem's ability to be bent into shapes, kind of. This is another rhizomatous runner and it will pop up years after you thought you had removed it all. They have begun breeding better behaved varieties, like Miss Manners, and you'd be well advised to look for them. Take every advantage you can. The delicate silvery foliage of Artemisia plants makes them deservedly popular with many gardeners. They blend beautifully with most flowers and look good all season. They also like to spread out by runners and elbow out other plants. In less than ideal conditions, they aren't terribly aggressive and can be controlled, if you stay one step ahead. Thanks for watching. subscribe for more interesting videos. And please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm.